we're bringing power to remote villages, where we have a program called EPICS, where we have student groups that go in and find a community problem, and they will solve that through their efforts. We want to do the best we can for these folks who have been through sometimes the darkest moments in their lives. This is one of those calls to action where we actually go out into the community when there is a problem and the regular communication and power are disrupted, and we provide support.
Having that computer, which most of us just saw in the corner of a lab, we could never actually use it. We were actually learning computers on paper. We were doing flowcharts and things like that. But just having that, it creates an aspirational feeling that I want to do something like this.
Why we picked India is, first of all, it's a wonderful, caring community here. We have many, many members here in India, and they want to do this kind of work.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Our Own Devices. This time we're going to talk a little bit out of the box. We're not going to talk about AI. I think it's been sort of dominating all the conversations we've been having for a few years now. But let's talk about the human touch and humanity and what else tech can do. I'm a firm believer in the fact that technology should make life easier, take away a lot of the pain of day-to-day life. And I got a mail in my inbox which suddenly had my eyes eyes light up on this exact point, on what technology should be doing. Maybe I think we get we get tied up a lot in sort of the superficial things, which really doesn't change our lives much. So let's talk about something new. And to talk about it, we have with us Mary Ellen Randall, who is the president-elect of IEEE. Ma'am, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
So, it's my pleasure, absolutely. I know a lot of people who are listening to the podcast who are in the tech space would understand IEEE, but it will be great if you could just tell us a bit about what IEEE does and what is the MOVE project.
Okay, I'd be happy to. So IEEE is the largest technical professional organization in the world, and we're actually a public charity. That's our stated purpose, and we advance technology for the benefit of humanity. Now, many of the things we do in IEEE are we spread information about technology. We have a digital library that compares to none. Everything is peer reviewed, and it is very highly cited and so on. So, but we also do develop standards to try to make the world an easier place to develop technology to help everyone. And we do things with young people, and it's educational kind of work. And we also get out into the community and do outreach. And MOVE, you asked about the MOVE program. The MOVE program is one of those programs that we have that is highly humanitarian based. And we have trucks that go out with our volunteers in there after disaster. And we assist the first responders and emergency personnel and NGOs with the technology they need in order to get the services to where they're needed. So we have power and communication on these trucks. They're standalone. They can operate when the grid is impaired by, say, a natural disaster, a flood, a cyclone, hurricane, a wildfire. We've done several different tornadoes, many different scenarios where we've been able to help. And the IEEE members who are, well, we topped 500,000 in January this year. We're in 190 countries, and the the members deliver this service. So we develop these kind of technologies in our day-to-day life, and we do research on it. Many academics are part of IEEE, many industry people, government people, and we collaborate and share and do all those wonderful things. But this is one of those calls to action where we actually go out into the community when there is a problem and the regular communication and power are disrupted, and we provide support to try to get the services needed right at the spot where they're needed. And so I'm really pleased to be here in India because we have our first truck that we unveiled yesterday outside of the US.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful story here in India of how this has come about, and the people who are so devoted to it and have worked so hard to get us here. It's just very empowering and enlightening and everything, uplifting, all those things to meet the volunteers here that are doing this work.
You mentioned about natural disasters being a place where these vehicles can be deployed, but I understand there is a peacetime angle to it, right? Like, and we don't want disasters. So you have the rest of the year, which is available for other users of this of the Move project. Can you explain how that works?
Yes, and we're very excited about that because that is, as you said, when we're not deployed at some kind of disaster helping out, we use it to reach out to young people and to the public, young people, school-age children even, all the way, every age really. And we do hands-on work with them to teach them about science, technology, engineering, and math. We have kits that give them experiments that they can do, things they can do to learn this in an experiential kind of way. And again, the IEEE volunteers and our student branches and our professors and anyone who's active with IEEE can assist in that regard, taking it out to the schools, but also to the public. We take the trucks out to conferences or to communities where there might be a science-related event that people might be interested to see what it is we do. And people of all ages can come and we can explain and demonstrate just the impact that we have. See, we develop all these things in our day-to-day lives, and they're wonderful, like you said in the beginning of your talk, that the technology can make our life easier, and it does when it's deployed and working and everything, right? But there are circumstances when it fails, and in the interim, we're able to come and help. And actually, we also educate in preparedness, right? So we explain to the children what kind of situations they might get in, how to respond to them calmly and effectively. All of those kind of things are in there. There's a lot of talk about the climate and what's going on with that, how to respond to different things that you might encounter. And so there's just a lot of lessons that can be imparted through the use of something like this. And the vehicle just kind of makes it very real, and you can see it. It's tangible, and it is a visible sign of what all of our members do in their day-to-day life and how we contribute to society and that sort of thing. So it's we use it a lot for the educational purpose.
Is there a soft power kind of, I don't think that's the right word, but I'm just thinking aloud here. Is there an angle where you get kids to be inspired because you have so much high tech, that they are maybe seeing, feeling for the first time. I'm reminded of my childhood. I come from small town India, where in a school of 3,000 kids, we had one computer. But just having that computer, I'll tell you, 80% of my batchmates are all doing high tech across the world now. they are CEOs, they're running companies, they are at the pinnacle of what Indian tech or IT space can do. I'm an 80s kid in that sense, right? But I guess having that computer, which most of us just saw in the corner of a lab, we could never actually use it. We were actually learning computers on paper. We were doing flow charts and
Mhm.
things like that. But just having that, it creates an aspirational feeling that I want to do something like this. Do you think having the move vehicle, go to rural areas, for instance, where kids are seeing this kind of technology for the first time, is there that kind of an aspirational effect that happens?
Yes, there absolutely is. And just again, seeing it, something that's tangible and explaining what is on board, how we get power, how we communicate, different things like that, because we have multiple systems on there. That's all definitely, again, it's a tangible thing. But we also take on board with us STEM kits, which have hands-on experiments that the children can do. And they can generate electricity with wind and do some different things like that. So it's not just seeing the truck, which is powerful in and of itself, but it's also learning and again, I'll call it experiential way or in a hands-on way, as well as the paper learning that you've discussed. But we try to use multiple senses and things like that, to enrich the educational opportunity for the children. Very important that they get excited about these things, because that's how we change the world, right? They're our future.
Yeah. And And how do you look at the deployment of a product like this? Because you mentioned it's India is the first country outside the US. But if you look at climate change and how we are having multiple touch points now. If you look at US, what's happened with US, we haven't seen this kind of things happen in the past. India is again at the forefront of climate change. Like many parts of India, so many new things happening. So how are you thinking of the deployment? Do you think you need to scale up the deployment, take it to more parts of the world? And when you think about this, do you also think about the places where the peacetime implementation has a significant effect?
Yes, yes, and that's one of the reasons why we picked India, right, for our next. And we always had a vision that it would go worldwide,
Yeah,
but going into a disaster and how to go there safely and how to bring our volunteers there, make sure they're fed and that they have a place to sleep and that their basic needs are met while they're helping out. All those things we had to deal with and think about in the first deployment, and we started with just one truck.
yeah,
And we didn't know, it was a totally different type of activity for IEEE at that time. So we started with one truck and we learned. And then we adapted the vehicle, we adapted what we did. We work with partners who are already in the disaster space, and we try to supplement what they have, not replace what they have. And so in some cases, we actually can combine our equipment, their equipment. We provide IT support and other kind of technical support. And it evolves with every disaster. Every single disaster is different. And how you adapt and how we built the truck in India is different than what was done in the US.
yeah,
And it's all based on experience that we share across the world. And why we picked India is, first of all, it's a wonderful, caring community here. We have many, many members here in India, and they want to do this kind of work. So we did a whole analysis of the types of disasters, what kind of equipment would be needed, what typically is impacted during a disaster. How can we fit into a niche that maybe isn't as well served as some others are. All of that was part of the preparation for this, and we were working on it just before the pandemic. And
yeah.
then the pandemic kind of put us on pause for a while, but we're back. And our vision is that we will be in many places in the world in the future, and much more prevalent here in India, because again, all the conditions are right here, and the heart of the people who are working on this program is just incredible. We do have other solutions besides the truck. So for instance, on islands, we deploy modular units that can be transported in a pickup truck or something and are tailored to the kind of disasters that they have, the kind of needs that they have. And that's all part of the engineering problem solving that we do prior to going into a new locale, as we call it. So, and let me mention that a disaster is a set of problems that are unique. Everyone is unique. Every day there's a different challenge that's presented there. And when we send in the IEEE members, they're natural problem solvers. They live for this. They love to be able to wrestle with that problem, solve it, move on, help the people who are there, and so on. And so it's a really good match of the skills that our members bring to the table and problems that, again, are unique every single time we go. There's some commonality, but there's always something different there. And so it's very fulfilling to go to one of these disaster responses, and it's also exhausting, and it's just very rewarding as well.
I guess it'll be a huge learning experience too, right? Because you're solving a problem usually with a huge time pressure. Um,
Right.
and and it sort of brings the best out of people, right? It brings the best out of technologists, it brings the best
Mhm.
out of engineers. So do you have a pipeline where all the learning is sort of streamed back into the system, and you're getting better, every time uh, uh, you enter a new locale?
Yes, actually, we do. We're organized also besides the locales where we do a lot of work together and train together and do all that. We also share across the locations where we are in the world, and we have a Move Global committee that facilitates that, and they do oversight, but they also help us to share best practices. And we actually meet, and of course, in this world that's virtual, it's easy to meet virtually and share ideas. And so we shared a lot from the US experience, what we learned, how we modified. We're now up to 3 trucks there, and we've been in approximately half the states in the US to respond to disasters. We've responded to over 40 of them in the 9 years that we've been operating. And we shared all that information with the India team. The India team shared back all their questions, all their concerns. They adapted it for India environment. They worked with outside groups to see, where the gaps were or where we might be able to be very effective to help. All those things are part of what we do. And we usually debrief right after a disaster, share it as widely as we can. This is what we learned. This is what we used. This is what we would recommend in the future, that sort of thing. So it's kind of in the engineering DNA that we are always trying to improve. And of course, there's always new equipment. There's always new things coming. And we try to stay on top of all that too, because we want to do the best we can for these folks who've been through sometimes the darkest moments in their lives. And so, we're very motivated to continuously improve and to share even across the oceans and around the world.
So, are the expectations of how you mitigate a disaster, is that changing with time? Because what we would think is the absolute requirement. Even that's changing, right? The
Right,
human needs are changing in that sense.
right.
So how do you keep cope of that? I'm sure before 2019, pre-pandemic, when we were planning, I'm sure it's changed a lot. By the time you have come to the India launch of the product, like how is that panning? And I guess that change is happening at a faster pace than it would have been maybe a decade back. Am I right in saying that?
Yes, you're right. And we are continuously looking at that. And as I said, we upgrade the equipment. I'll give you one example. When we first started the first truck, we had a huge satellite dish on the top. Well, that's
Yeah,
not needed anymore,
anymore.
right?
Yeah, true.
We can
With
put
Starlink
a
and
put a low Earth orbiting
yeah.
satellite dish on there, and we can communicate very well that way as well. And we have redundant systems in the trucks that we found you know, sometimes you can rely on a cellular signal, but a lot of times you can't.
Yeah.
And there are many times when we come in, we're the only means of communication because we are self, we have the power and everything self-contained is what I'm looking for. Because we have all of that right there on board, we can go in and help others, other responders. Sometimes it's even police that need help or a connection to report a situation. We have radios, we have IP phones. We've developed many redundant systems that help us to be effective in almost every condition. And so we're continuously looking at that, upgrading. And of course, we have to upgrade the code that's in the devices that are in the trucks and things like that. So it is an ongoing problem or ongoing challenge, but it's one, again, that it's kind of natural for us to like to do those kind of things. So it's a labor of love, and but it's also very rewarding to be able to stay with the times and bring the best service that we can to humanity, which is what our goal is.
Before we wind up, I'm sure this is not the only project IEEE has been working on. Like over the years, you always have been on the cutting edge of what new things can be done. Again, the standards that you're working on. So if I can ask you, the other project that has you most excited?
Well, we have many of them. I mean, we're bringing power to remote villages, where we have a program called Epics, where we have student groups that go in and find a community problem, and they will solve that through their efforts. We have of course, I'm drawing a blank right now, but we have a whole focus on our humanitarian technology activities. Tech for Good is another program that we have. And I know I'm not doing it justice, but all of those I think are just so important because I remind our members that IEEE volunteers, we work with a staff around the world, but we're together, we're the heart of IEEE. It's the people that make it living and that make it happen, and and I think that's just so important for us to remember, because it's a powerful organization, and it's powerful because of all of us who put so much into it. Yeah. And again, we are a public charity, so we want to help, and we want to use the best technologies and so on to help people in the world. And we want to make sure everybody has equal access, like you're saying. So we work on all those kinds of things on a continuing basis. But in addition to that, we do research and new discovery, and we share that research and all of that, again, through our communities. And I just find that our network is incredible. You can find out anything, anywhere in the world, and the people are so gracious that it's just really nice to be able to do these kind of activities and to have an impact like that.
So thank you for being on the show. I'm sure our listeners are sort of inspired again to see the potential of technology. And there are a lot of companies in India, for instance, who have these kind of technologies that can come to help of people in their most testing times. Um, and um, and I'm sure IEEE is showing the light here on what all can be done, especially in a country like India where technology of any kind can make a huge difference. So thanks for being on the show.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure. It's been very nice. Thank you.
We are listening to Our Own Devices. We'll be back again next week with another guest, lot more knowledge and insight. Till then, we are available everywhere you listen to your pods.